best podcast in Long Beach, California. This is Tacos and Workouts.
What it is. Podcast. Yo, what it is with the best podcast in Long Beach, California. I'm so excited about today's guest. All the way from San Diego, we got our very own Hector Bravo. Tell him who you are.
What up, man? Thank you for having me, bro. Yeah, I drove up from San Diego this morning. Thank you for letting me on your show, dude.
Oh, no problem, man. It's I'm honored to have you on my show, man. It's always nice to see somebody that you admire on social media, and then you get to meet them in person. So I'm like, wow, man. I bumped into your channel, and from day one, I was like, that's amazing. I love it because we sometimes we get a lot of the perspective of what happens behind prison walls, but we never get the viewpoint of the people that actually help maintain the prison, the correction officers.
Yeah, it was a tight kept secret for decades, bro. I mean, it was kind of just the way things were, man. Nobody really spoke on it.
Yeah, and why is that? Is there like a code that you need to follow?
An unofficial code, not enough. They call it the green wall or code of silence. And I wouldn't say it's like officially that, but more so, actually, a lot of it you can get in trouble for speaking out, bro. And which is why I ended up quitting to be able to speak out. So because you don't want to get fired or retaliated against, it's better just to shut your mouth and keep it pushing.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like with everything nowadays. We're kind of like starting to figure out that that's the way it works, like pretty much everywhere, like in government and at places of employment or whatever. Then
So I went to college, believe it or not. I didn't graduate or anything, but I learned about, the First Amendment, and they said that does not apply in the private sector. So basically, if you got a job, man, and you want to speak out, they have the right to fire you. You don't have the right to work there. So I did learn that, and that kind of put me up on game.
wow, that's crazy.
It's the truth, though. You're working for a company. If they got policies, procedures, or an agenda that they want you to abide by, you speak against the grain, man, you're going to feel it.
And that's kind of like why you kept kind of quiet all that time about certain like things that happen in the prison system.
Why I kept it quiet, I would say because I was naive. Believe it or not, I was naive, bro. A lot of people find it hard to believe. Like, dang, Hector, why couldn't you leave sooner? Why did you stand for some of the stuff that you were doing? Why did you participate in some of the stuff you were doing? To be honest with you, because I had not seen the full picture yet. But when I did, bro, I'll tell you the truth. I didn't stick around much longer after I seen the corruption.
What was going on? And I think maybe that has something to do with your upbringing because you at 17 you enlisted into
The army.
the army. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely, bro. I joined in 2002, 17 years old. Twin Towers had already went down. 1 month after I graduated high school, off to Fort Benning, Georgia, dude. I'm originally from Brawley, California, which is small, tiny in the Imperial Valley. It borders Mexico, Mexicali. There's really nothing there. And I went to Fort Benning, dude. Started training. We knew we were going to go to Iraq. They were kind of how right now, how everybody's talking about Iran. That's how they were talking about Iraq. Same freaking message, which is weird, bro. And I got stationed in Germany. 1 year later, I found myself in Iraq.
Yeah, you're definitely right. That's kind of like mirrors, kind of like what happened. And we went through that war looking for weapons of mass destruction. That was the whole reason why we were there, correct?
That is the whole reason why they told us we were going there. Correct.
And what turned out to be the truth?
That was not the truth.
That was not.
That was not the truth, dude. I'm 40 years old now. I was 17 then, 18, 19 years old, gullible, naive. That has a lot to do with it, man. And there's a reason why gangs and government and military target young men because they're like little torpedoes, bro. You tell them to do something, they're going to do it. Especially in the military, if you tell them you're going to be doing something noble, honorable, which is what that left a bad taste in my mouth, bro. Because like not only do I feel like I got lied to, right? I wish they would have just told the truth because then I would have understood why my friends were killed. You understand what I'm saying? I lost like not 8 friends that were killed in Iraq, and they're gonna lie to us that and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, bro, or an extremist, but they told us we were gonna be invading Iraq because Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
Wow. And you personally watched your 8 friends pass away in front of you?
Not all 8, one of them, 2 of them, 2 of them. One on September 10, 2004, my buddy, fuck, dude, he's actually from Torrance, California, where Torrance is right around here.
Yeah.
Um, Edgar Daclon, he was Filipino. It was on September 10, 2004, my mom's birthday. We went out on patrol, QRF, Quick Reaction Force, and they laid a roadside bomb, an IED. And as soon as he stepped out of the Humvee, they detonated it and killed him instantly. 17 days later, on September 27, Joselito Villanueva, also Filipino. Damn, bro, it's kind of weird because I get drawn back here, right, to LA, and then I speak on this because he was from LA. He was shot in the throat and killed on September 27th, 2004.
It's like people have like a misconception, I think, of war. Like when I think of war, I think of like Black Hawk Down, right? I think about, Saving Private Ryan. Like, and it's I think like, you know, wow, it'll be awesome to be fighting for your country, but what was it actually like?
100%, bro. I thought the same thing. At the age of 17, I thought the same thing. Oh, this is gonna be cool. This is gonna be like Black Hawk Down. I'm gonna be shooting people, but not once did it ever cross my freaking mind that people were going to be shooting back at me. Not once did it ever cross my mind that there was gonna be roadside bombs where there was no enemy in sight. They were hiding. You couldn't see them. They were miles away sometimes. And a bomb blows up and then your friend's killed or you're wounded. It's like, how do you can't fight that. You can't. Nobody prepares you to having your friends get wounded or killed. Nothing prepares you for that. You, there was one thing that used to piss me off when I first got back in 2005 is when people say, "Oh, you knew what you signed up for," because I did not know that I was signing up for that.
Yeah, they don't paint the that picture, and I think one of the things that they should tell you is like, there's no guarantee that you're gonna, like, you don't think, oh, I'm gonna get killed. Like, it's like you think about it, but you know how we think. It's like it's never gonna happen to me.
I knew that was a high possibility, bro. I joined the infantry. You know what I mean? People fucking die in the infantry, and that's what upset me when my medic got killed. When our medic got killed, because he was our medic, just think like a doctor. I was fucking pissed, bro. I had survivor's guilt. I wanted me to be dead instead of him, because that's what I signed up to do. But you do reach a turning point, and it came out on Band of Brothers. You reach a point in when you're in combat to accept death, to embrace death. You have to. You absolutely have to, because think about how um think about how effective you will be if you've already accepted your own death.
Wow, that's crazy to be able to do something like that.
Well, so I don't think it's healthy, right? But
Yeah.
it definitely was needed
Yeah.
at that time to survive, for sure. Because think about it, bro. If you're concerned about getting killed, there's death, there's threats, there's danger around every corner.
You're not gonna be effective. You're gonna try to be hiding, and while you're hiding,
You're gonna get blasted.
yeah, they're gonna gain ground on you and eventually take you down.
Let me clarify something though, man. War is not about the individual themselves, dude. And I'm sure you've heard it. We fought for our brothers. We fought for the man to the left and to the right of us. I'm sure you've heard that over and over again. My brothers in my platoon and me, we knew that we would easily, gladly give our lives for each other without a question. That's what I think it was more so. I'm going to die for you, bro, so that you don't have to die. And it's the same reciprocated. Cool. I'm going to die for you. And when you have that strong of a bond, like the movie 300, Spartans,
Mhm.
there you guys are damn near unbreakable.
Wow. So, did you ever shoot at anybody? And
Yeah. Um, well, I'll tell you about a couple times. One was when my friend got killed on September 10th. It was on a hardball. It was on a road street next to the Tigris River, the infamous Tigris River. And when his body was laying dead on the ground, vehicles were still trying to drive through. But I would not allow that. We would not allow that. We didn't want them to come through. Plus, that's unsafe. So I began to shoot at vehicles to get them to turn around. Um, One time, that day I almost shot somebody in the fucking face. It was an old man, but I can kind of figure didn't know what was going on. And that's what I credit young military men and women, because you're making life or death situation in less than seconds, bro, in less than milliseconds. Like, and the fucking problem is that haunts you for the remainder of your life, whether you think you made the right decision or where you don't know if you did or you didn't. So there was that one time where I freaking shot up a few vehicles. I intentionally did not shoot that old man in the face. Turned out to be the right decision.
Oh wow.
Because we thought it was a car bomb. It could have very possibly been a car bomb. They were hitting us with car bombs around that time. Luckily, it was not. And then it was April 15, 2004. Our camp got mortared. Mortared or rocketed? I can't even remember if it was mortared or rocketed, bro. Either way, we got indirect fire where
I'm sorry to interrupt. What's the difference between mortar and fire?
Okay, so a mortar, that's an excellent question, bro. A mortar is the thing you put in the tube and it goes boom. Okay. You ever see the mortar man go like that? That's a mortar. A rocket is like a bottle rocket. You know what I mean?
A bottle rocket.
A bottle rocket, like a firework.
Okay.
You light a fuse and then that shit takes off into the sky or into your camp and blows you up.
Oh wow.
So they're both coming from the top. They're both coming from the sky. I wouldn't say one is more dangerous than the other. They both fucking suck, bro. I've been caught in rocket attacks, man, where it was exploding all around. And I'm not embellishing that story or putting a 10 on it. Dude, that was one of the days I should have died. There was numerous times. But back to the story of when I shot that dude. Our job as infantry was to go to the location where we were getting shot at or fired upon. And we tracked it down and we saw a truck with 3 males, military age males, evade us. They ran away. They fucking ran through a house and we chased them down. And eventually it got to the point where I ended up shooting one of them. He continued to run. You know, that's another thing about the movies. In the movies, every time you watch a movie, every time you shoot somebody, they just fucking drop dead.
Yeah.
Not here, not in real life. This dude ran. Just think about deer. Think about if you go on YouTube and you watch hunting of deer. They shoot those and then they got to track them. It's the same with humans. They continue moving. So I shot that dude, patched him up. I believe that dude died, man. When I got married, I asked my sergeant. When I got married, all my brothers from the army came to San Diego to my wedding. And I was like, hey, whatever happened to that guy? He's like, oh, he didn't make it. So that was at one time.
Wow, that's crazy. And after like that happened, like how did you feel about that?
Oh, I felt like I was going to hell, bro. I felt like I was going to hell. I was 19 years old. I grew up Catholic. Even though at that particular time I had a fallout with God. I had a fallout with God. You know, God never abandoned me. Now we have a great relationship, bro. So I grew up Catholic. I did all the First Holy Communion, baptism, catechism, confirmation. And I'm like, I just killed somebody. Like, I'm going to hell. Thankfully, luckily, a chaplain came in. And that's another thing they don't tell you about war is like when there's a major event, like if you lose a friend or if you kill somebody, thankfully the army will send you a chaplain to talk to you. You know, unrequested. The dude just showed up, bro. I was sitting down with my head down. And he's like, I know what you're thinking. And I'm like, you don't know what I'm thinking, dude. He was an older gentleman in the military. And I'm like, you don't know what I'm thinking. And he's like, 30 years ago, I was in your exact same boots in Vietnam. And then I just looked up. And he explained to me, hey, God allows you to kill in war. It's thou shalt not murder. And that made me feel better, right? Whatever people's perceptions want to be, whether it's approved or it's not approved, like I feel comfortable with my God and my actions now. And that's after seeking a lot of treatment, dude. I sought a lot of treatment at the Veterans Hospital.
So by seeking treatment, you mean you suffered from the effects
Post-traumatic
of
stress disorder.
Stress disorder.
Yeah, bro. That came back in 2005. I started drinking alcohol. Not started because I started when I was 15 years old, but I started abusing alcohol. I'm an alcoholic. I have now 14 years of sobriety. abusing drugs, using drugs, and then suffering from PTSD.
Wow, that's amazing, that's I'm pretty sure we could talk about that like forever. Thank you for watching the best podcast in Long Beach. Believe it or not, we're not monetized. That's right. So we make no money from YouTube at all whatsoever. If you want to continue watching these awesome episodes that I produce here, do us a huge favor. Show your gratitude by sending us a little something on our Cash App or on our Venmo. And we appreciate it. Believe me, it goes a long way. Thank you so much. But we brought you to talk specifically about the things that you saw being a corrections officer. What made you want to get into being a correction officer?
My dad, bro. My dad was a CO. He started in 1993, and he started at Centinela State Prison. So where I'm from, down south, there's two prisons in the Imperial Valley. There's Centinela and Calipat. He was working at Centinela, and I had family working at Calipat. But ultimately, I ended up picking Centinela.
They were like, what, 20 miles away from each other?
Approximately like 30 miles away from each other.
Okay, why would they have two prisons like close by? That doesn't make sense to me.
I have no idea why they did that, but one was level 4. Calipatria is like infamous, bro. Like all, level 4 GP, like the real gangster shit. And then Centinela was just a toned down version of that.
Okay, and by level 4, that's like the most craziest, and GP means general population.
Correct.
Okay,
and I wouldn't say most craziest, because now you have mental health psych ward inmates. That would be the more craziest.
So it would be like the most dangerous,
most secured, high security.
Okay,
which means more fences, more guns in the tower, more razor wire. That's what that level 4 means.
So you started working, and how old were you when you started?
22.
Working? 22. Wow. So you go from 17 to 22. It's bad enough that you already went to war.
Right.
You've been shot at, or murdered, and you witnessed your people, and then you went through that traumatic, and now you joined the prison system to be a corrections officer.
Yeah. The year was 2006. Started dating my, at the time, wife. We've since separated. I'm telling you, bro, I just freaking just take life as it comes, man, with the good and the bads. At that time, things were good. Besides, I was still drinking alcohol. I had the career. I had the girl. I had great leaders in the California Department of Corrections, meaning correctional officers that were very experienced and mentored me and took me under their wing, showed me the correct way to be a correctional officer. Because there is a correct way and there's a wrong way.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. You since left. What made you want to stop being a corrections officer?
Oh, bro, I eventually promoted all the way up to the rank of lieutenant. Well, when you promote that high, you're next to the bigwigs, man. You get to see a lot of behind the door closed things. And what I saw, bro, I was utterly disgusted because it went against my morals, values, and ethics. Bottom line, bro, I would I would go as far as to say it violated the law. I will say that.
Wow, and it took you how long to figure that out?
16 years.
16 years.
Yeah, it took me 16 years to figure it out, bro, because I was a CO, a correctional officer, for 8 years. So doing that, bro, you're just dealing with inmates every day. You don't see nothing above you. You know what I mean? Nobody's talking. Sergeants aren't talking to you. Lieutenants are not talking to you. You're not really asking questions about, hey, what's going on? You're just in the trenches.
Well, it's funny that you use that word, because I was gonna say, wouldn't it be comparable to like going to war, where you have to like constantly like make sure that you're not gonna be attacked by inmates?
Yes.
Yeah, and like how often are correction officers attacked?
Now, daily.
Daily.
Now, daily. Back then, not as daily, but it freaking happened. It happened for sure.
And what's been the change? Why is it now like more violent, more deadly?
Just look at what's happening in the streets, right? Zero repercussions, zero consequences for people's actions, agendas, politics. That is a reality of why things are out of control right now.
Who runs the prisons? Would you say that the inmates run the prisons, or is it like the correctional officers?
To be 100% honest, and I continue to hear this right now, administration runs the prisons.
Okay.
Bottom line, administration is really putting both the inmates and both the correctional officers in really life or death, deadly situations daily.
And why is it that they're constantly changing policy to accommodate prisoners? That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I believe it's manufactured chaos. They're creating chaos, disarray.
Why would they be trying to do
So
something like that?
CDCR a government agency, right? Above CDCR is the governor. Right now, the governor Newsom. Whatever Governor Newsom wants, if he has a secretary, which is the highest position in CDCR, that is willing to do anything, sell his soul, break the rules, break the law, in order to keep his position, then that's what's going to happen. And that's what has been happening for 2.5 years already, more than 2.5 years. But I bounced on December 1st, 2022.
Wow. I guess what are the gladiator wars?
Well,
I hear that term
okay.
being used here and there, and I'm like,
So historically, if you hear the term gladiator fights, that is more than likely in reference to Corcoran State Prison, the security housing unit, the SHU. Okay. It is alleged, and I got some people that yelled at me the other day. It's not alleged. It actually happened, Hector. It actually happened. All right, well, this actually happened. They correctional officers were mixing inmates of different rival factions, and then they would fight on the yard. And again, allegedly they were placing bets. The reason why I use alleged is because I wasn't there, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can't flat out say something
Yeah.
that I don't know.
Yeah.
So apparently bets were being placed and people were getting shot with the Mini 14 and killed. If I know anything that happened in my situation, those orders came from above them. Mix these enemies, right? Because I, myself, in 2019, was put in the same exact situation and was doing gladiator fights of our own. I wasn't betting, but we were mixing guys that we knew were going to fucking fight each other.
But that's because of the orders that you were given.
Facts.
Okay. And what's the whole point of them wanting to mix the individuals? Is it for budget cuts? They just decided that they were going to do away with separating the individuals, and they figured, we're just going to save money, put them all together, and what happened? Like, they wanted to consolidate it and make it a norm. That's what I'm guessing. But what's your
Okay,
opinion?
so like, I want you to imagine the higher ups of CDCR. Not all, because that will be a blanket statement and that will be a stereotype. The majority are evil and dumb. You put evil and dumb in the same category, this is not going to work in anything, bro, especially when you're dealing with human lives. So if somebody tells them, again, above, there's a lady by the name of Bree Williams. She started a company called Amend. She graduated from UC San Francisco. She started this program where she wanted to copy the Norway correctional facilities, like the country of Norway, and bring it to California, which is fucking impossible and retarded. And what it took was idiot managers to accept that. Instead of saying like, no, lady, get out of here, kick rocks, you're a fucking idiot, you're going to get people killed, they embraced it. So when you said, what is the purpose of them mixing, in their heads, they think, this is what they told the inmates. You're expected to get along with your neighbor outside on the streets, so we expect you to get along with anybody in here. That's not, they're two separate environments.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense because
Correct.
I grew up here in East Los Angeles, right? I grew up in California, Southern California, all my life, right? You watch Blood In, Blood Out, you watch, American Me, and all these movies, and you kind of learn like some of the politics that go on, and you're like, whoa. So you understand that there's divisions by race, right?
Correct.
And you can't. They're like I would hate to say it, but like beta fish. Right, you put two fishes, beta fish, they kill each other.
Facts.
And I imagine that that's the same thing that happened when they were doing all this commingling.
It's crazy that you were able to put all that together without even freaking working in there, right? But you actually got people working in there in high up positions that just don't give a shit about reality or the truth.
I think it's both. I think that, like you said, they're
evil or dumb.
Yeah, dumb. And the reason is it's because I seen it happen in the corporate world,
right?
Like working, like I'd be like, well, you can't do this because X, Y, and Z, and you're telling the CEO why he can't do certain things, or you're telling the person in charge, and they're like, no, well, I'm just gonna do it this way, and
That's how
then
it is.
and
That's
then
and
the
then
company
something
fails.
goes horribly south, and then they want to try to blame you for the mistake that they made. That is CDCR in a nutshell.
And why don't they just get rid of these people on the top? Is it are they unremovable?
Who is going to get rid of them? Governor Newsom, because Governor Newsom loves those type of people. He needs puppets. There is nobody to get rid of them. Who is going to get rid of them? Who is going to investigate them? The Office of Internal Affairs. The Office of Internal Affairs is they're in bed with the administration. Let me tell you this, bro. I quit the department 2.5 years ago. Last month, they filed 2 illegal search warrants into my email addresses. That's perjury. They committed the act of perjury by lying to Google and YouTube, saying, hey, one of our employees, Hector Bravo, is violating our policy. We need access to his email account. And Google didn't know. Google doesn't know that I don't fucking work there and that I'm a whistleblower. They gave them my shit. But they knowing and willingly lied to violate my First and Fourth Amendment, bro. How did that make you feel?
So now that you bring that statement up, I guess everybody needs to follow rules, right?
Yes.
And so the rules don't apply to certain people at some point.
Well, I would say if I freaking quit a job, I should not be being held to those standards of a job. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is purposely why I quit.
That's crazy.
Like, imagine if I worked at Jack in the Box, right? And I was yelling, F Jack in the Box. Jack in the Box sucks. If I worked for it, they would fire me. But if I quit, you can't come after me, bro. That's fucking crazy.
After the fact.
After the fact.
And the reason why they're coming at you now is retaliation because of what you're doing now, because you have your own podcast channel, and you're just giving your experiences.
Not only am I giving my experiences, I am backing it up with documented evidence, which is the kicker right there, bro. I'm not just getting on YouTube just talking shit and smearing lies and defamation of character.
Well, you couldn't, because if you were to be doing that,
I would be violating the law.
Yeah, you would be getting in trouble.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
Aren't you ever like concerned that they might that they're doing like what they're trying to do you now, like put some dirt on you and try to incarcerate you?
100%. I expected it. But you do realize that I expected it, right? I'm not whatever I do, whatever move I make, I've already planned that move out fucking four moves in advance. You know what I mean? I don't just stumble upon moves. I plan this. And if I had to do what I had to do to show the world, hey, look at how scandalous they are. Look at them. They're putting search warrants on me. Look at how scandalous they are. They just kicked in my fucking door and allege that I'm committing these types of crimes.
Mm.
You know what I mean? That's a big win for the world to see. So in other words, I'm kind of like sacrificial, but I don't really care because that goes back to my age of 19 where I figured I should have died in the Iraq war, bro. And that's something I lived with, survivor's guilt. I guess you can say I still live with it for me just making that statement. I feel like everything after the Iraq war for me is just bonus time. Bonus time. That's the way I look at it.
That's something else.
Why though? I mean, to me, it's just like anybody could live like that if they truly wanted to.
Yeah, it's funny. I look at life like in not as the overall picture. I tell people that you don't live a full life; you only live moments
or a day at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
A moment, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like right now we're having this conversation. This is our moment, the podcast, right?
Oh, I'm loving it, bro. We're bonding. We're bromance.
As soon as we walk out, this moment fades away, and now you're driving home. That's a different moment. That's the way it is. So it's crazy that you say that because like that was one moment you lived when you were 17 in the war. You lived a different moment in the incarceration system. And
no, you're 100% correct that we live moment at a time, right? But also myself and everybody is not programmed, but they have their own experiences, right? So they're shaped. Everybody is shaped by their experiences. And if you're like smart enough to see the whole picture, right? Because some people could be racist because of their experiences. Some people could hate cops because of their experiences. But if you see the whole picture, and we were talking about this outside, I told you, Once I identify that something doesn't align with my values, goals, morals, or belief system, I bounce, bro. There's no reason for me to stick around.
Yeah, and there's so many few people that do that. Everybody, it's just easier to conform and like look the other way and just pretend that everything's okay.
But I did conform. I conformed for 36 years of my life. 37, 30. I conformed, bro. I was the best conformer. I was a pawn. I was a pawn in the military and I was a pawn in the CDCR. I listened to my parents. Well, not all the time, but they always, had I listened to my parents, I would still be working where I'm working at right now, right? They're not bad people. They're just old school, which is why I have a 6-year-old daughter now. And I know better than to try to put my beliefs onto her. I want her, I want her to make mistakes, bro. And I encourage her to make mistakes.
To learn as an individual, to learn as
Absolutely.
a person.
Absolutely.
To
I
live.
give her leash. I give her leash, bro. Now, whether that's my parenting style, I'm not talking bad about my parents' parenting style. And I've said this before. I believe for me, because I'm probably going to do whatever I was going to do anyways, regardless. That's my personality. I believe that they kept that leash too tight on me and I freaking wilded out. That's why I give my daughter a little bit of a leash
To do what
to
you want.
learn. Because that's how a person learns. Which would made me effective in the military and made me effective in Department of Corrections.
So, so what are some of the crazy stories that happen that correction officers do? Like, like, are they involved in like beatings? Can a probation officer, if he gets pissed, can he just beat down an inmate for no reason?
Well, can he? Can he? Yeah, I mean anybody can do anything, right? But like, yeah, I came in 2006, right? That's probably going to be as wild from my experience or as free, right? Because there was no body worn cameras, there was no video cameras, and your sergeants and lieutenants took your word over anybody's word, right? So, but even then, at Centinela State Prison, we were not wilding and beating dudes up because the inmates would not tolerate that. They'll stab you. I was about to say they'll beat you. They will stab you. So it's almost like you're walking a line because that's the way the prison environment is. Now, I'm not saying that excessive force doesn't happen or has never happened. It has, right? From what I heard, I've never seen it. But can it happen? Does it happen? Yeah. Do they get in trouble? Do they get fired? Sometimes they do. Sometimes they get promoted. It all depends.
Um, I saw you talking about this briefly on one of your episodes, where I think you mentioned that one of the other reasons you left was because some prisoners were claiming to be transgendered and were being requested to go into female prisons.
They went. They went.
How did that work out?
Well, you tell me how that worked out. It was a fucking nightmare. Girls got raped. Girls got pregnant. Girls got beat. It ended. It's in a nightmare, bro. And that goes back to moral and ethical values and belief system. I don't care if you pay me $1 million and you're gonna think I'm gonna do that. Keep your $1 million. I'll go eat out of a trash can.
Have they since reverted that process, or is it still in place?
I believe they reverted the process, bro, but not the law, because it actually became law in California, which is the excuse that they use to mix them.
So I'm like trying to look at this from a corporate standpoint.
Corporate?
Yeah. So it's kind of like when you have individuals to claim to be, transgendered, and therefore then they need to, you can't put them in a female prison because things like that happen. So then they'll be like, well, we need a place of our own, right? But then if they do that, then it's the whole system just kind of repeats itself. Then they're gonna be put in general population, and then
Well, you got to understand, like inmates are also responsible for some of the shit that's fucking happening now, because I was gonna say cried, because they sued that they didn't want to be locked down anymore. Now you have no more lockdowns. Now an inmate can murder another inmate, bring him back up, he'll murder another inmate.
what do you mean there's no lockdown?
There's no more lockdowns, man. There's no more lockdowns. There's
So
no more lockdowns.
so this is how I imagine it to be. I've never been in prison, and I the way I think about it is what I seen in the movies, and
Right.
what I think in the movies is that there's like 50 to 100 dudes just in one room. Is that accurate, or is it everybody is in like little different pods?
You're gonna have. There could be 100 people in one room if it's a dorm. If
Okay.
it's a dorm, it's gonna look like that, right? Bunch of bunk beds and a bunch of people. If it's a housing unit, you're gonna have cells
Okay.
and 2 men per cell.
And then you said there's no lockdown, so those cells are open, and then there's
No,
a
no, no,
general
no,
pop.
no.
No.
So in the past, if there was a riot between all black inmates and all Mexican inmates, that yard was getting locked down for 1 year, meaning that the inmates were just going to stay in their cell, and we were going to bring them the food to them. We were going to escort them to the shower, escort them back to their cell. They don't get to play in the yard, and they don't get to play in the day room. There is no more lockdowns. If they have a riot in the morning time, come the afternoon, they're going to be out playing in the yard again. Imagine that, bro. You'd have 50 people fight 50 people trying to kill each other in the morning. And instead of locking them down, you just let them continue.
So it's back to business.
Yes.
And then do they ever like so okay, we tried to do that to each other earlier and like at breakfast, and then by lunch they're like, why wouldn't they just keep on doing that all day?
Well, sometimes the inmates get tired of fighting.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I've noticed too. Like, I think a lot of the race riots seized, besides the end of all hostilities peace treaty, I think they realized, shit, they're not locking us down anymore. Right? Because nobody really wants to fight, and the majority. If you have a brain, it's not the smartest idea to continue to go out there with knives and continue to stab each other.
Mm-hmm.
They would rather not. So I think amongst themselves, they probably look at each other and it's like, hey, we good now? We squashed it. We squashed it in the morning. It's like, okay, let's talk about it.
Has the prison? Is it working? Has it worked? I mean, like, because
Bro, I bounced 2.5 years ago. It is the worst it has ever been.
how do you fix it if you can?
You fix it from the top. From the top. You remove the leaders that are currently there, the managers, the administrators. You remove them. Now, you got to understand, though, if you have a governor the governor appoints the head person. So if he's not on board with what he wants, he's going to remove him. So in other words, if you want it to be successful, you have to lie to the governor, tell him that, yeah, you're doing what he's telling you to do, but in reality, fix the system.
That's crazy.
Is that making sense to you?
Yeah, I understand.
You're probably asking yourself, why the hell would the governor want to break the California Department of Corrections?
No, I mean the guy's a millionaire, to my understanding, right? So, the guy wants to be president.
Correct.
I'm assuming.
Yes.
So he's just because more than likely, this is my opinion, if he's able to be in California, which he almost got in recalled, but he was able to go through. What I see happening is that he wants to be president.
Real quick, do you want to know why he was able to beat that recall? Do you know who donated? Fuck, how much money was it? Do you know who donated? It was like $2 million to his anti-recall. The union for the correctional officers.
Oh,
the officer union. So you have a corrupt entity, administration and headquarters, the union, and the governor. And they have sold out everybody at the bottom. Their own union has sold out their cops, their COs. But it's like extortion, bro. It's like the hooker and the pimp. These officers continue to pay their union $110 a month, $120, and the union continues to screw them over and over and over. And when I've tried explaining to them, hey, you guys need to stop paying your dues, they come up with a million excuses. Oh, but what about my insurance? What about my legal representation? Your legal representation sucks right off the top. But that goes to, can you be firm in your decisions, in your stance, in your moral beliefs, in your ethical system to make a fucking decision? Right? Because people want solutions without putting in any freaking work, bro. Americans are lazy. 2025. The world does not work that way. Somebody's going to have to pay.
well, it's definitely gonna have to pay.
Well, they're paying now. They're paying in blood. They are paying in blood right now. Every other day, weekly, you're getting a correctional officer getting stabbed in the head and in the neck, bro. Near death. I've seen these holes, bro. They send me the pictures and the videos. And every fucking week, you're getting an inmate murdered in the California Department of Corrections. They're paying in blood.
Yeah, who knows why they want to do that. So let's talk a little bit about your podcast. Because that's another reason why we brought you in to promote your podcast.
Appreciate
What
that.
specifically do you do on your podcast?
Which one?
Because you have two of them.
Yes.
So, what made you tell us about your first podcast?
So
The prison.
So the first one is I go on there and I've been doing it for 2.5 years. I talk about the corruption that I experienced.
And every how long are your episodes?
Oh, they're 15 minutes each, bro, and I pretty much do one every day, except for today because I had to drive up here.
Okay.
But every day, bro.
So you should talk about
Created a little community, man, of like-minded individuals from all different backgrounds, which is a cool thing, man. You got former cops, former gang members, former inmates, current gang members, and it's all because I speak the truth. People appreciate the truth, bro.
And how do these former inmates that watch your channel? How do they feel about what you're doing?
They love it.
They love it.
They love it, and I think the reason why they like it is because they realize how much of a beast the system is, and how I went heads up against the system.
I would imagine that someone would try to say like, "Hey, you have no right to talk about our life."
No, because I'm not bad mouthing them. I'm telling them the
You're just
truth.
saying the truth of what. The
Yeah,
reality.
if anything, I'm helping them. I'm for sure helping them
By exposing all
100%, and I'm even helping their family members that have questions but no answers.
Wow. Saying the things that you're saying, right? Aren't you scared that someone might be able to piece one story and then piece another story about something that happened to their family member, put that together, and then file a lawsuit?
Give me an example.
Like you should say, I was at a prison where a correction officer threw somebody over the balcony, and then he passed away. And then somebody would say, coincidentally, my loved one fell over the balcony and passed away. Right?
Yeah, I've never said anything like that.
Okay.
I've purposely never said anything that's gonna come back and haunt me or anybody else. Bro, not that we were throwing people over the balcony. I'll be honest. Earlier you asked me, do people get beat up for no reason? If you're an inmate and you attack a correctional officer, back in the day or in the past, you were gonna get tuned up.
You know, this it's funny how, because I like to look at things like from different perspectives or what. I always try to look at, from the first perspective and the second perspective, right? Kind of like the people's behavior. Like, I see how gang members act out on the street, right? How they pick on people that basically can't defend themselves,
Right.
bully people, right? And then they're put in a situation where they're locked up and correctional officers act like gang members,
Yeah.
and treat them the way they treated people in normal society.
Well, that's not necessarily true. And let that be a misconception or a shadow of the belief. Are there correctional officers that are assholes and don't know how to and talk down to inmates? There are, and the average correctional officer hates working with those people because it creates problems. It creates tension.
And I imagine those are the ones that end up getting stabbed or in trouble or
It
fired.
varies, not always just them, because there can be an officer that's an asshole in the morning shift. Nothing happens to him. He goes home, but that inmate is still pissed off, and now he needs to take out his anger on somebody. It's going to happen on the next shift, and that does happen. There's so many variables.
I was listening to one of your episodes. You were talking about there was a situation where sometimes nurses and COs get involved with inmates.
Yes. Yeah, bro. Not sometimes. Often.
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 Why the hell in the right mind would they be hooking up with incarcerated inmates?
I have no idea, bro. There's so many like horny dude COs that would love to smash a female CO, but the girls give it up to the inmates. Not all, right? But I've seen it over 5 times for sure. In 16 years, if I tell you that 4 COs smashed an inmate, that's a lot of fucking COs.
What would you say? 4?
4, like 4 or 5.
Smash one CO?
No, what I'm saying is that I know of 4 different females that have hooked up with inmates.
What do they get out of it? Just like, just it turns them on, or
A thrill, maybe a thrill, messing with a bad boy. I don't have no freaking clue. No clue.
So what would happen to somebody if they were to get caught doing that? Like,
Nothing. You're fired.
that's it.
That's it.
They're not breaking the law by.
Well, they are breaking the law, but nothing happens to them.
Okay.
I will say they're violating policy, not breaking the law,
Okay.
because there's no consensual sex in prison. So that would be a violation of the policy.
There is no consensual.
Correct. There's no consensual sex, meaning two inmates cannot have sex because it's not consensual. Like it's against the rules.
Oh, okay. All right. Do they still have what's that called? When your wife comes in conjugal visits, or is that
Yeah, bro. As a matter of fact, they just killed two ladies at Mill Creek State Prison last year on a conjugal visit. And CDCR tried to sweep that under the rug until the news media got a hold of it and blew it out to the public.
so? These women went to go
Visit their
visit,
man,
and then okay
and they got choked to death and found dead in the morning
in the morning.
or in the nighttime. In the
Okay,
morning.
so they once they get to like sleep over
Yeah,
overnight.
over the weekend.
Wow.
It's like a freaking little. It's like a little project back there, man. They got just think of like a studio. They got a oven, a stove, a microwave, a television, a couch, a bed. So they're just kicking it in the apartment.
So obviously that does not work.
What doesn't work? It
well-
works as long as you tighten up the security a little bit.
Okay. Now that you brought that up, like back in the day, people used to get like 25 to life. Is that still a thing?
Nah, I mean they might get it, but it's not what it used to be. In the past, if you got 5 to life, 10 to life, anything with an L, anything with a life, you were going to stay in prison for the rest of your life. Somewhere around 2010 ish, the laws changed. AB 109, Prop 57, or Prop 40, which I'll be honest with you, bro, that was necessary. That was necessary to a degree because there was a lot of inmates that paroled and got in shootouts with the cops out on the street. But there was also inmates that paroled and have been successful ever since. But what that did was give the inmates hope. When I was a correctional officer working in the prison system and the inmates had no hope, you felt that, bro. You felt that. Everybody felt that. It was eerie. It was dangerous. Now they have hope, right? But now you got a lot of mental health inmates, which makes it different type of dangerous.
So if somebody like goes in when they're, I don't know,
18.
18, so they still have enough time to kind of like live the remainder of their life, assuming they only did 25 years.
I'm not good at math, but yeah, you have a lot of youngsters that went in at 18, 19, 20 and got out when they were 40, 45.
I thought the whole point of giving them life was the harshness of the punishment.
As opposed to what?
Well, I mean, like deemed that the act itself that they committed upon society was too violent to have them, live amongst regular people. Therefore, that was the whole implication of life. That's my understanding of it.
It's kind of funny because I never even gave it any thought, nor do I know. I don't even know that answer as why they give out life. I mean, I guess we could look at the death penalty. Why do they condemn people to death? I guess there's criterias in the law if it meets this criteria. But let me tell you something this, and for your viewers, the law is not fairly dispersed across everybody. I've met an inmate that got 4 life sentences and he never killed nobody.
How does that come about?
He just robbed a bank with a note.
Hmm.
And I said, how, dude? And he goes, I know. So
that was probably a case of either the judge being unfair with him or bad lawyering, or
Jury.
maybe it was jury, maybe it could be
the county, the DA.
multiple bank robberies, presumed to possibly be a dangerous individual, or possibly have the means to commit violent acts,
Right.
and probably also the amount of money that was stolen or presumed to be stolen.
I don't even know if the
So-
dude jacked any money, bro. But once I was like, damn, dude, I could see he kind of started feeling bad. So I had
Yeah.
to back off. You know what I mean? Because I was
Yeah.
just like, fuck. I said, that's crazy, bro. Because I told him, dude, there's people here that have killed people and they didn't even get life. And he's like, I know. He put his head down. I'm like,
Wow.
fuck.
And that dude was never gonna get out again.
Hopefully he does. You know what I mean? Because realistically, now that I've been around the block and I've talked to a lot of former lifers, bro. Even on my new podcast that we were going to mention,
Yes, let's
Hector
mention
Bravo Unhinged. I've had the opportunity and the blessing to be able to speak to former lifers. And people might ask, what the hell would you mean by blessing, Hector? Dude, that's a great perspective that nobody else would ever hear from, and that I get the opportunity to share their story or let them share their story. Like, hey, dude, at one point I did this, I went through it, I did my time, and now I'm out here. People can change. God loves that stuff, bro.
And how do you feel like have you ever interviewed anybody that you personally overwatched?
Yes. Yeah. Not in person, but on my other channel on the Zoom. Yeah, I have,
Okay.
bro. Yes. And they'll tell you the same way, like how I was in the prison system. I was just the very same way, bro. Chill, fair. I mean, now if it cracked off, of course you gotta get work. You gotta get busy, but very fair, bro. Very fair.
Okay, so you have two channels, the one where you speak about your life experiences, and then one
Yes.
where you actually do kind of like what we're doing here, podcasting.
Correct.
You invite somebody in, you have a one-on-one session, and they tell you about their life stories.
Yep.
That's amazing.
It's cool, bro. I met all peoples of all walks of life, and I'm very strong in my spiritual and religious faith that I believe I'm doing what is expected of me to do.
And are you much happier now doing what you're doing now that as opposed to what you have done in the past?
It's I can't even put the words. I can't even put the words, bro. I have no more stress. Now, I have stress, right? Like I told you I was fighting with my ex earlier, but it's not the unbearable, overwhelming, confusing stress. It's okay. Problems come my way and I deal with them. It's not like I'm getting bombarded by problems where I can't get myself out of them.
It's a different
And the most important thing in my life, bro, is my daughter.
your daughter.
And I'm in her life all the time. All the time.
It sounds like you went through. I hate to say this, man.
Went through hell?
hell, yeah. And now you found a
Went through
religious
hell.
purpose, yeah.
Went through hell. I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you this, bro. When I was going through what I was going through, I was hurting, dude. I was hurting bad, bro. I didn't know what was happening. I was cursing God. I literally was cursing God. What are you doing to me? Why are you doing this? Why can't you just kill me? There was a time I was on my knees begging to die, crying. And now I see the purpose. Now I see the purpose to be able to go and put my hand out and help people that are still suffering.
Wow, man. You're an amazing individual, man. Like for real, man. Like I see your story, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy that you do all that stuff, and now you're turned it around. Like by helping people, right? You got all that negativity and all the bad in the world, and you're like, and you know what I look up to you so much is that you, like you said, you walk your own line. You don't let people like sway you. And you don't go with that program. You're like, nah, if it conflicts with my morals, I'm not having it. And that's one thing that I admire about you.
Thank
And
you.
and I like that you're doing great things on the internet and podcasting and all that.
Thank you, bro. It's not easy, man. It's not easy. I struggle, dude. I struggle. But I don't drink alcohol. I don't do dope. I don't go to the bars. I don't hook up with random women. You see, I want people to understand why it is that I'm able to function the way I'm functioning. Is because I do everything that I'm supposed to be doing. Eat healthy. I'm not saying I'm a saint. Let's get that on the record right now. I'm definitely not a saint, bro. But I, for the most part, do the right thing.
Yeah, I think there's a plan. Definitely like a plan. And now that you brought up like the religious aspect,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm a believer as well. Do I follow it? Do I like pray every day and read the Bible and all? No, no, I don't. Right? But I like to have understanding of certain things, right?
Right.
There's many reasons how you live your life that the book will solve, right? Because you said something, I'm not here like sleeping around or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And when people tell me like, well, why doesn't it say that you could like sleep around? And like, what's very easy. I go, why do you think there's so many STDs in the world?
Yeah.
It's like if you get somebody who's pure from day one
Pure.
and someone who's pure from day one, and they only like with each other, then theoretically nothing will ever come from it, right?
You know what's a good indicator for me whether I'm going to do something or not, bro? My gut feeling. I follow my gut all the time. I follow my gut and I follow my heart. And they, for the most part, lead me in the right path.
Yeah, all the answers are there, and you have to definitely follow your instincts. Listen, it's getting kind of kind of late, and I know you got somewhere you got to be,
Yeah,
but
dude.
more importantly, we gotta eat those tacos, man.
Let's grub, bro. Let's smash them. Thanks for having me, dude. This was awesome, bro.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming down, man. Hey, I want to make sure that everybody follows your both channels, right? It's the prison guard, right? And then it's Hector Bravo unhinged.
Correct, dude.
All right. Anything you want to tell the viewers before we'll let you have the final thought?
Just and this is something I always say to everybody, man. If you can't help somebody, don't hurt them. We're in 2025. You turn on the TV, it's all hell has broken loose everywhere. LA, protest, Iran. All everybody has to do is live a good life and do the right thing and stand up for what is right. That's it.
That's awesome. All right. And with that said, that's the end of our episode. Do me a huge favor, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Do me a huge favor and share this episode. And I might have forgot to tell you to subscribe. So if you haven't done so, go ahead and do that. And we'll see you guys next time.